Hello, welcome back to yet another live. I know this is a late hour, especially in India, but based on my past experiences, having a live in the middle of the afternoon, in the evening, and late at night, I've kind of realized that late at night is actually quite good. For one, the kids are asleep. For another, there is no traffic on the road outside, and so I'm easily heard and there is no sound to distract. So I'm going to probably try these kind of 11 o'clock lives a few times just to see if that is working for me and for everyone else. So if you don't if you haven't caught my lives before, not to worry. I think in most cases I managed to save them to my IGTV, and you can watch it whenever you like. So today we're going to do I'm going to paint coconut trees. Now, why coconut trees? Because there's a lot of coconut trees around here in Kerala. Everywhere you look, there's one bit of foliage that stands out about Kerala. As you may all know, it's coconut trees and banana plants. Yeah, these are the two main trees you will find in Kerala. So I was practicing a lot of these coconut trees, and this is a very loose style. If you observe carefully, or if you watch tutorials by other people, you can refine this. If you are painting very precisely, you can make it a whole lot better, but this is a very loose style I've followed, and I like this kind of a loose style. Why? Because it helps me in when I paint a landscape. Maybe not in so much detail. I don't think you will need so much detail in a landscape. You might have to compress it into a smaller coconut tree. Yet, some of the interesting things about painting it stay the same, whether it's a big tree or a small tree or just something in the shadows. So that's something I wanted to address today. So for today, we will pick coconut trees where it's just the sky and the tree. So mostly what we're trying to do is get just the tree in focus. That's your focal element, that's your subject, and the sky is merely there as a backdrop, right? So here are some examples. I looked at a few reference photos, and I decided to work these out. So everything that I am trying to do now is looking skyward, okay, and the position of the coconut tree varies in each picture. So today what we will do is, what I would recommend is, if you are looking for inspiration, you should check Pinterest. You should also probably check Google Images, or any image for that matter, any image repository that will allow you to give you some sort of a photographic idea of how the tree is placed against a sky. Yeah, so this is one example. I probably will do this today, where the photograph is taken upward with the tree in focus and the sky in the backdrop. So this sky over here is nearly entirely blue. Now this is something you can change from picture to picture. You can choose not to have such a blue sky or a lighter sky. That's up to you. Then there's another example. So these are just for you to give you an idea, not to really replicate it. So you're going to take this idea and make it your own. But a few things we will start to notice about these trees. First of all, of course, we all know that the leaves of the tree are pointy, rather long and pointy. Now it's important that we get this sort of leaf correctly. The thickness of the leaf at the center, okay. These are rather dense near the center, and they kind of space out as they go outward. So this is one thing you have to keep in mind when you are painting the leaves. It can't just be quick strokes outward. It won't look organic, cohesive with that kind of effect you're trying to get. Okay. Here's another example. The other thing I want to notice is that often there is a sun beating down on this tree in many pictures, so you're going to see light greens, yellows. Even the edges of many of these leaves are yellowish, ochre, brown. The tree itself will have leaves that are dying or going to fall off, and as well as new ones. So the color variation in one tree alone is quite a bit, and that's something that will make it very organic if you incorporate as many of these tree colors as possible. So where could you use these? You could use these in single images where you have a boat with a tree in front, or if it's just a sky, that too will make a good picture on its own. Okay, so let's attempt something like this, where we have the stalk or the branch of the tree starting and kind of coming towards the middle. Then you have this tree, the leaves come all around. The position of the leaves is very there is no symmetry. There is really no symmetry. They project from different outward, they radiate outward from the center. In some cases you will see, if you zoom in, you will see a few coconuts. That is now a choice. You can keep those coconuts, retain them, as I have over here. In a few of mine I have maintained coconuts. So if you would like to keep the coconut, that's the kind of place you will keep for it. Else you can also go without coconut approach, something that's just the leaves of the tree. In this case the tree bark is really lighter than what I have done here, but that's fine. That is your choice. I may not want to replicate it as is. The other thing is also that there is sometimes a shadow. If you're trying to bring in the effect of bright sunlight, you may see the shadow of the leaves on the branches. I think I brought that out in this picture here. You will see slight shadows. So whether you want to have this or not, that is again your choice. But if you do, that's another thing we will cover today. Yeah. Alright, so let's get started. First off, I have my sheet of paper, which is an A5 sheet. Okay. I'm going to keep these as references close by, so you can see what I'm doing. Among other things, brushes. I will discuss the brushes. So first off, you need a thick brush, which in this case I'm using a Camlin number 12. You can use any brush you want. This thick brush is mostly for the first wash, where we put in a sky, and however you want the sky to be, whether you want the sky to be entirely blue or less blue, more white, whatever, with clouds, that's all of that can be achieved with a thick brush and a blue color, a water wash and a blue color. Then you have these smaller brushes. I have a size 6 and a size 3 right now, round brushes. The whole point of these brushes is to paint the leaves, and therefore it's important that you have pointed tips. I mean, this is very important, right? So for finer tips, I use number 3. For the slightly thicker leaves or broader leaves, I use this. For the bark of the tree, I use this big one. So that is why I need 2 sizes. I usually keep 2 sizes handy. Yeah, so that's it. Just round brushes mostly. And since we have no other items on this on the sheet, on this page, we don't have to worry about anything else. Okay. Optional are these birds, which I have included in some of my paintings, but not all. So if you feel you want to add birds at the very end, that's also up to you. Alright, let's get going. So according to this picture, like I said, we have a rather blue sky with only patches of clouds here and there. So I'm going to probably draw in the stem, or the branch, sorry, and why am I doing this? Because if I want to go dark with my blue, I would like to not have any blue on this branch. Okay, so that's the reason why I'm going to show you how it would look if we decided to mark out the branch of the tree. I'll just get myself a pencil. So, like I said, the tree is somewhat coming to the middle of the page. So if I draw this the center downward, it will be something like, again, this tree is not it is not perfect. Okay, so your branch can bend quite a bit, the main stem can bend quite a bit, but since this is taken from a photo down to up perspective, you have to keep in mind the branch broadens at the base and narrows at the tip. So that is something you would want to keep in mind. Yeah, so that's one tree. The other tree is, pardon the sounds, I'm trying to keep this phone display on because it keeps going off. I should keep this on. Yeah. So the other thing is that we have a tree here and we're going to bring that into, but this is a thinner tree, so keep that in mind. Your tip is almost going to be covered by one of the branches. So this is another drawing you can choose to do right up front, that is the leaves, how you would want the leaves placed. So you have many leaves, don't be hesitant about this. If it has many leaves, draw many leaves. I believe these are called fronds or something like that. I am not sure, I have to check. A little overlap here, then some here. So sometimes you'll have a leaf moving forward, bending forward. Include that, there's no harm in having that. There will be one that somehow covers the front of the stem of the branch or the main branch. You may have some on the side overlapping. Some go this way and turn, so keep that also in mind. This one has a fancy one sticking out, and one here, one here. There's one that bends this way, there's one that goes outward, sideways, and then there's one that goes curving downward. There's all sorts. You can just keep these markers ready. Now, I will not be drawing any of the other leaves you see in the picture. Okay, all of these I will not be doing that because I'm going to keep it just at these trees. Okay, all right. Now comes the wet on wet. I would wet the paper a bit with plain water. This just helps spread the paint nice, a little smoother. I'm not watering down, taping down this sheet because I don't really need a border. Okay. I'm just careful not to wet the branch because then my paint will spread all over the branch, which is the whole point of drawing it in the first place. We don't want the paint on the branch. So just keep that in mind when you wet the paper. Alright. The other thing is color. Now in many cases you can use ultramarine blue, and that is usually a nice color for the sky. So I'm making ultramarine blue here in my palette. Ultramarine blue, but a watery shade of ultramarine blue. Keep that ready. You'll need some of it up front because some dark bits up front. That is because a lot of the sky is getting painted in this particular one. Okay, so there's my wet. I'm going to be careful. Okay, all right. So for the first part, I find that I will not be including any clouds. Okay, this is just staying true to the picture. I don't need to do this. But in the second part, now once I reach the middle part, I water this down a little more, and I'm more careful now of the branch. Okay, I'm watering it down. And as I go lower, it will get lighter. Alright, so there you have it. Now once this is done, I do a little bit of lifting just to give it a sense of, just a dab of blue sometimes, and then a little lifting of color, because I want to show a few clouds just here. So to lift color, okay, where's my tissue? I've lost some tissue, so I'm just taking my rag and blotting out a little bit. I can't find my tissue, and I'm not sure which of my children has taken it. You can clean your brush and kind of take off some paint, but I'm a little late here. Alright, not a big deal. I think I'll just leave it for now. Just checking this point. Alright. Now, next step, I can't proceed until I let this background dry. So while this is drying, we are going to sit and try to get the paints that we need ready, prepped, before we get back to this. Right? Okay, let's do that. So you will notice a bunch of colors we are using here. One is green and yellow, of course, yellow ochre and brown, maybe burnt umber, and a little bit of Indian red, maybe, if you feel your picture needs that color. Oh, there's my tissue. Okay, so we're gonna have to keep these colors ready because we are going to organically pick them as we paint. Okay, to show you some of the colors we're making here, I'm going to just take this portion of my palette and get some yellow ochre going, or some color that looks somewhat like yellow ochre. Now I can't be sure because here the colors are slightly differently named from my camelin colors. I also have a sap green here, which is a very vibrant sap green. If you see, it's rather bright. But not to worry, you do have a few bright greens, so keep that ready there. I also will use a little bit of this is Indian red, or some odd color like that. So for some people this may also be not sure actually, maybe Indian red is the best thing. So keep Indian red ready. We will also keep brown, and brown is around burnt umber shade. Okay, so I'm going to keep a burnt umber kind of shade over here, just basically a darker brown. I just want a darker brown. Yeah, with a little black maybe. Yeah, alright, so we've got these many, and then we need yeah, my favorite color of late has been hooker's green. Hooker's green is a lovely color. It's deep and it's earthy. I just love its I guess its deepness. Okay, that's one. I will also keep a little bit of ultramarine blue ready over here, because with ultramarine blue with sap green, or for that matter hooker's green, will give you a really good green shade, deep green shade. Yeah, have a look at that. It's quite nice, right? So those are all our colors. We will dip in for maybe a black, but just like a little bit of black, or maybe a dark brown. We'll dip into those later. Now that you have these ready, be ready to pick with a brush one color and then another color at the same time and try your strokes. So that gives you a very what shall we say, fluid, a color that changes as you apply. So the first color you apply and what you get when you lift off are going to be two different colors. So that's a really nice effect. Okay, on to painting. One more thing I can show you, and that I can show you on a piece of paper, is how to paint the leaves. So let me open up a sheet, a blank sheet, and show you how the leaves look when they are being painted. So if you are usually the center, it's nice to put, and I've seen this many times, it's nice to put a central vein if you have a nice downward facing leaf, a leaf that faces downward, or for that matter shows its shows all its smaller what is the word for it? It's I forget what it is. Individual leaves. It's nice to put the central yellow. Why? Because very often we want to show that yellow in the middle. Have you noticed that the yellow in the middle kind of stands out? Like you will notice, if I zoom in, look at this leaf. You have this yellow, that mid-section, which is showing very clearly, right? So these all, there you go. There's this middle over here that's very clearly shown. So that yellow drawing is very good to give it that backbone you want to your leaf, right? So you can leave that yellow when you paint the outward facing, the leaf, the little leaves. Okay, now if you notice the way I am pulling these leaves out, I kind of bring they are never in one direction. So I will never do something like this, right? They go here, they go there. They have a very organic way of moving, downward facing, and then sometimes they go a little off. I will dip and I will take another color like this, like brown sometimes, and have that come in very unevenly distributed, is what I'm trying to say, right? So when you do this, when you do this. You automatically bring in so much of character to your leaf, and it just shows, it just comes alive. The deep colors are also very nice to show if you want to show the newer leaves and things like that. Yeah, these deep colors really help. So you can choose to have this mid line showing very clearly for a leaf that's front facing. Okay, and the direction of the leaves are largely downward, yet they will not always be parallel to each other. Some can go across, some can go straight, sometimes they move this way. So it's not uniformly in one parallel direction. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Okay, getting on to our painting. Now I'm going to use my slightly larger brush, which is the size, what size is this? Size 6. I dip in a little bit into my yellow ochre and I give it a light pale wash with yellow ochre. Same with the other side. A pale yellow ochre wash. Instantly I will follow this up with a little bit of dark brown. But in this picture what I noticed is that let me just look at the picture. It's nice to keep the picture in reference. So while there's a lot of sun, the right side seems to have a slightly darker appearance than the left. So this is probably where you can drop in a little bit of dark brown. And don't worry if it spreads a bit like this, there is really no trouble. The blending is really good. It'll merge well with the yellow ochre where we dropped in. Almost like a shade, like a shading on one side. Yeah. Okay, leave that be, and then we get on to our fronds, if I were to call them that. Now for the fronds I am actually using a yellow, something we did not prepare before, but you can take it, you can just kind of be, you can be quite loose with this yellow, because it doesn't have to be a perfect any particular color, it just needs to be the center and it should look slightly bright. Okay, and while I do that I will put in this rather blunt, not very what do you call it, not very focused shade of yellow, just dab it, kind of very crudely applied, not refined. Okay, something like this. I do it mostly for the front petals, because I start to notice that the back petals are the ones that are, or the back leaves are the ones that are darker. So I need to see this light tone mostly in the front. I hope I'm back. Yeah, I seem to be back. Bring that in. Now this joint, don't worry too much about it, because it's all going to meet in the center, and it's going to find a way to look natural. Don't worry. Okay, so that's my yellow, and I'm done with yellow. You could even have done this with a little bit of yellow ochre. There's really nothing stopping you. Okay, now for the remaining, I'm going to get back into my palette and start pulling out the sap green. Now while it is wet, don't be hesitant. You can start applying your sap green while it is wet. Okay, but now you're going to apply it very distinctly in the shape of these pointed leaf-like structures. Okay, and as you come along, make sure to connect them. because sometimes they get disconnected when we're just trying to draw lines. So make a little bit of an effort to connect them, and each time you dip into another color. Okay, now what do I mean by another color? I'm going to dip into a little bit of brown here. Okay, and I want some brown here, so I'm going to put that in. Some here. Next color is going to be another dark green, and then back to that vibrant shade of sap green. And this is where you have to go. You really have to have fun. Let it look however it needs to look. Don't get too caught up in, oh, my leaf is not looking very real, because the remaining colors are just still to come, right? They get better and better. So here's me putting some leaves here. Immediately I go and put that into a green as well. Now as the leaf turns away from us, you will see less and less of its other side. That is something you have to keep in mind. So don't draw all your leaves having these line-like things. Look at the picture. So for example, this one, or maybe even this one, this particular leaf, you will notice that you only can see the leaves that are on one side for this front, and you do not see anything that's on the other side. So don't draw the other side just because you put that central vein. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so this is a side facing leaf. I would want it to be largely like this, right? That's all I can see, and that's all I want to put in. That's my point. My point is, don't put what you can't see. If you can't see it, don't put leaves that you can't see. So I can't see the leaves on the other side, and that's fine. Only put in the leaves that you can see. Yeah. Dipping into yellow ochre. Now over here, this turned leaf of mine seems to have leaves going front. In fact, has leaves going this way. Okay, and as it turns, the green comes into picture, and you start to see dark green leaves here, and some curved leaves here that just start to turn. Very oddly, they start to turn. You start seeing them turn this way over the branch, and that's it. Leave them that way. Okay, it may look odd now, but as you fill up, it won't. It'll be all right. Now here, this one here, it's just straight. I can only see the side leaves, so I'm going to leave it that way. This one has got leaves that are very small because they all turned. They get larger. And then on the other side, I have a slightly darker shade that goes almost curving in this way. Yeah. And just as I'm getting bigger with these, I find that I have another set of leaves which are coming from this one. Dark ones. Join them a bit. Take your yellow ochre and mix it with some light green, and that's it. Draw as you see, and you should be fine. Now some places you may find leaves that are you may want to add in some leaves. So here I find some things filling up. So for the filling up, I need to put in. Now I'm not very specific about this because they're in the background, right? So they're kind of filling up the space. Okay, oops, I think I put my finger on. This is something that happens ever so often with me. I managed to put my hand down over wet paint. Okay, got to be careful next time. Now, the leaves at the back. Now, this is something I did not even draw in earlier, but there is one leaf here, kind of hanging down, and it's a very odd shaped thing because you can only see a few things here like this, and then there's almost nothing that you can see clearly, and then when you go up, you start to notice the rest of the leaves. But here all you're seeing is a blur. Okay, and some of those leaves are coming through on the other side, so you can draw those, but that's it. Okay, and that's all you see of that. Some of them you can lengthen them some. Same way, go on with the other leaves. So this way you'll have to keep going around the tree. Here some of the leaves are quite light, so I'm not going to cover them up with green. Here I have a few leaves that are bent, and then most of them are this way. Some sort of a curved leaf, I think. Okay, dark greens here. Then you have some here. In fact, curving a bit. I may have drawn that frond a bit odd. So that's another thing you can do, correct. Please don't hesitate to correct. Okay, now I see a little bit of bright yellow ochre, more yellow ochre than green, and so I'm going to keep that. This was the center. I'm going to keep those leaves yellow ochre, because there's no point making that green when it is got to be yellow ochre. Another part of the leaf that is rather bright is this one. I even have a little brown here, and then a little bit of green. So what I did notice is this is the back leaf, and then there is one in front as well. So I'm going to draw that front one this way. It's got some very visible browns. Oops, not dark enough. And we'll come back with the dark greens later. Here are some definite browns, and here are some browns too, but apart from those, mostly just green. So let me just get more green going. Okay, so there we go. A little bit of dark green, add some this is definitely one of those leaves where you can't see the down the bottom parts. Now I'm putting in a lot of dark here because I can see it. Over here I will put in a little green, bring in a little yellow, okay. So our tree is taking shape. Let's go back to some yellow ochre over here at the tip. Greens, funnily they are bent in a very odd way. I also see some sticking out on top, but now here is a little bit of one leaf that I did not draw that is actually covering up what is here. So I'm going to draw it in because I can't see what's behind, right? So I can't really leave that. Okay, now that we've got this in, we can wait for some of that color to settle before going in with deeper shades. Oh, there's one more leaf here. I can just add a little bit too. So the light shades are all in. Now what we're going to do is let's get to the bark. Let's give the bark a little attention. So now I'm watering down the brown that I had made with black and what was it? Black and burnt umber. And I'm going to make these little lines that you see on the side of this thing, of the branch. Put in a light shade on the one side, which is in this case the right side, and put in these little dashes as you see them. I mean, really not in any, they're not evenly distributed or anything like that. Again, dashes here and there, and that's nothing more. You can, as you get lower, put in a little deeper shades just to get that darkness come in. Okay, you can do that in fact up front. There's no problem doing it here itself. And then put in your dashes. Put in a little bit of, some portions I see a little more darkness, and so I'm just adding that in. Okay, that makes it look much better. We can now go in with a little bit of brown, the same kind of dark brown at certain places. So here I can see that the stem here, it's a little dark and I can see through the branches. So where you see that, put that in. Okay, just at the start of these branches, some of these branches. Same way, I'm going to go into this part. I see some dark shades here where the branch is coming in. Yeah, the borders kind of. I can put in a dark shade if you look somewhere here in between. And these are kind of filling in the dark spaces or the gaps between the leaves. Okay, alright, now going in with our dark green, really dark green. And this dark green can be achieved by putting a little black to your hooker's green, or putting in a little dark brown to your hooker's green, whichever works actually. I like a little black, which just gives me that deep shade of green that I love in these coconut trees. So starting from this end, I see this dark shade at some places, not everywhere. So I'm going to put it in carefully. So the leaf behind here, okay, and then you have some strands here too, not many, just a few. Similarly, I find that here there are some. Okay, these branches are definitely dark, so I'm going to start putting, and they're long, I didn't realize that they were, so I'm going to start putting them in. A little bit of darkness here. Sometimes the darkness is only at the base of the leaves, other times it is seen at more places. Now here what's happening is I can't put in all the leaves as is because it's overlapping with another leaf of the branch in front, so leave it there, only put in the gaps that you see. Now here comes the leaf that is really dark. Okay, see, not even, nothing is even in these trees. Alright, some here where the dark shades of the tree are. I have to really be careful with these. Yeah, this is another spot. The dark shades make so much of a difference. Now here I have some that emanate from the center on both sides, but they kind of get light as they go up, so I'm not going to go into too much, just an occasional, yeah, that's it. Similarly over here are some dark shades, but as they come towards the tree center, you will notice that these dark shades become very definitely clearly there. You can see them very clearly in the gaps, and that gap, catching it in the gap, is really important. So where are the gaps? The gaps are right here between leaves. So for example here I see some darkness, and on either side of this leaf in fact, and this brown leaf is not standing out as well as I wanted it to, so I'm probably going to go in with a little dark brown, just see whether I can get, yeah, that darkness to come out a little more. Yeah, sometimes you need a little darker brown than you expected, that makes a difference. So this is coming forward, but not too much brown there. It needs more green. Here. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, the other side. So this tree is quite a bit of the darkness has been brought in. Here I'm going to go darker here, right here. I'm going to go with a little bright sap green. This is too light. There is one more thing you can do. You can add a color that is not very often used. This would be something like an emerald green. I'm not sure what it's a very different sort of a green, but it adds some spunk to the leaves. I've seen it in some renditions of coconut trees where you have this bluish green. It's really nice. In the dark shades, of course, where the dark shades should be. In these gaps, fill in these gaps, they are very important. Back to my dark green. That's it. Now for some ultimately dark black, and this is like, there's more black than green in the shade that I'm using, but it really does make a lot of difference to have. So if you put it in at just the strategic places, it's really pretty. Now for this, these little gaps here, same for here. I put in a little bit here. Alright, okay, so that takes care of that. Shadows are not always necessary, like I said, but if you prefer to have some, you can put in a little bit of shadows here. You can deepen the brown a bit, put in those lines a little darker. A few rough dashes, and that's it. Those are some loose coconut trees. Now for the last bit, and this is so optional, you don't need to do this, but if you want to add in a few birds, I'd recommend you take the same blue and maybe a little bit of black and a little bit of brown, mix it all up, and what you get will be something of a gray. And if you're putting, make sure you use a very thin brush. I'm going to definitely put one over this mark over here, because I don't want this bit sticking out. Okay, just the tip of your brush, mark off some, yeah, just the tip, very important. A few little birds at different lengths, different distances. Yeah, that should do it. Maybe one on top. Yeah, that should do. For additional effect, I would recommend splattering a little bit of green, watery green, just to give it a nice watercolor effect. This is going to dry off quite nicely. Of course, it's kind of mixing with the birds, but that's okay. So this is our tree. It looks nicer, it comes a lot better as you add the darker shades. So don't hesitate with the dark shades at the very end. If you feel it's not dark enough, you can even go dark enough, like a dark blackish green, and it'll look quite pretty. That is what brings out the shadows, and the deepness is what brings out the rest of the leaves. Everything cannot be very light. Yeah, so that's it. If any of you would like to, I'll put up the remaining trees on in a post, and you can have a look at all of them and see which ones you'd like to try. If you're trying, please look at a reference photo for inspiration, and let me know, if you tag me in a post, if you do end up putting these on Instagram or Facebook. Yep, I'd love to see them. So thanks everyone. I will catch you on a live soon enough, I hope. Fingers crossed. See you. Bye bye.